Most people know that saints are an important part of our Catholic faith. But what exactly is a saint? And just as importantly, for some people, maybe more importantly, what do saints matter for us today? That's what we're going to be talking about today at Ignition. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Bergwald, and we want to set your faith ablaze so that you might live the adventure that comes from a relationship with Jesus Christ. Before we get into our topic today, talking about the saints, we want you to know that we love listener feedback. So if you've got questions about today's episode, or if you have ideas for future episodes, please contact us. The easiest way to do so is by email, and the email address is No, I'm kidding. That'd be fun. That's not really. That's not really his email address either. Nope, not that one either. Ignition at sfcatholic.org. Again, ignition at sfcatholic.org. We love to get mail. Fan mail is the best.
Yes.
But we'll also take ideas for future episodes, or again, questions about today's topic. So I'm talking about today's topic. No more T words. I got nothing.
Yeah.
With my,
Often.
I'm going to use a word that I would use all the time with Father Dickinson. My co-host of fond memory. He's still alive, but he's kind of dead to me. Not really.
Wow. Co-host of fond memories. I don't even know how to take that.
Illustrious.
Ooh.
Regular co-host.
I like that.
Not complete, but you're regular at this point. Renee Kranz. Hi, Renee.
Hello.
Would you mind introducing us?
Sure.
Yourself to us?
Sure.
Now I understand listeners from previous episodes lately will know that you're not keen on giving out, personal data that might be part of your security questions.
Yes.
Last week I asked you, or recently I asked you, favorite movie, book.
Oh, yeah.
Or TV show. So I want you to tell us about yourself, and then while you're telling that, you can be thinking in the back of your mind, because I know you can do this. What's your favorite state that you've been to? Favorite state besides South Dakota, your native land?
Okay. So I'm Renee Kranz. I am the interim communications director for the diocese and the editor of the Bishop's Bulletin. Been married to Ryan for 18 years. It'll be 19 years pretty soon, a couple months. From Watertown originally, been living in Sioux Falls since 2005. So my favorite state, I've been to a lot of states, actually.
Have you?
Yeah. Okay. This is weird. I think I love Wisconsin.
Oh my!
No, that's not because of the Packers. It's actually
Bill.
If
help
you've
me.
driven through the middle of kind of Wisconsin to get to Green Bay, it's a beautiful. And Door County through there.
Door County is amazing.
Amazing.
But that's on Lake Michigan.
But yes. But then I've also been to Maine recently, and that was absolutely gorgeous.
Jermaine and I want to go there.
Yeah. Acadia National Park was beautiful.
Okay.
So probably those two right now. And I could probably think, I've been to California and all kinds of places, so that's a tough one.
Oh, see. All right, well.
Okay.
Just trying to find out more about you without giving away your security questions.
Okay.
So, Saints, now, again, as we did recently in the episode on Faith and Reason, which may have been the last episode, we chatted beforehand, and I really like it when my guests or co-hosts, when there's a topic that you're really interested in. So we went with this again. And I know, your work you'll do when you get a chance, a post online, an article about saints. I know that saints are really interesting, compelling to you. They're really a fascinating topic for you. And I kind of teased, what is a saint? What do saints matter for us today? But before we get to that, why is this for you such a compelling, fascinating topic that you kind of love to think and talk about?
This is probably more of a recent thing for me. But I've kind of gotten a little closer to some particular saints, and they've really made a difference for me in my life, and just starting to really understand what saints are, what they're doing. This morning on my drive to work, Teresa on RPR radio was talking about saints and that they are more alive than we are. And that's so true. And I was like, that's really cool to think about that they're really more alive than we are. So we can talk more about that if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, it's more of a recent thing for me, but I don't know. They've kind of started to sneak into my life in different ways and different ones. It's weird.
So talk about how they start to sneak into your life. Can you identify? Maybe was it all them and the Lord? Like the Lord sort of just, I'm going to bring these people into Renee's life. Or could you recognize? Did you kind of see it for what it was, either at the time or shortly after? Like, oh my gosh, like I'm suddenly more aware of, or
not at the time, but definitely later. For instance, for me, one of the big ones is Padre Pio. When they had his relics here in the diocese, was that 2 years ago?
I think so.
I went to that. I wasn't really planning on going to it, but I went because I needed to take some photos for the Bishop's Bulletin. So, and then I went up to venerate the relics and just kind of really started learning more about Padre Pio, and found a Padre Pio chaplet and used that in a bit of a tragedy in our family, or could have been a tragedy. And he really came through for us. And so that, and I'm starting to notice too, other saints that will kind of pop up. And then all of a sudden I find that I'm kind of thinking about them more, or turning to them more, or whatever it is. Later on, I'll be like, you're doing something here. So yeah, I'm sure God's up there going, hey, she needs a little bit of you right now.
How do you know? Okay, you're talking. There are a lot of great things I want to, and I want to make sure that we get to the set of questions, like so people understand. Like if they're hearing this, like what are they talking about? Like you talk about venerating the relics. What does that mean? Padre Pio's chaplet. You talk. There's a. I have no idea what that is. I want to find out about that. But you just said so you recognize, you become. Oh, you're doing something here. How do you know? Like, what's your sense? And I have an idea of, I have a guess on how you may answer this, but how do you know the difference between when it's a saint who's acting or versus when it's the Lord acting directly?
Ooh, I don't know if I know.
You can tell the difference.
No, I don't think I can. I don't know when it's one or the other, but I know that the saint is popping up. So, okay, for instance, this must have been a month ago or so. Something I read was a quote from St. Joan of Arc.
Okay.
About, I'm not going to probably get the first part right. It's over at my desk, but something about, I am not afraid. I was born for this.
Yep.
And right now there's, we're working through some things here in the Chancery as far as the communications department. So I'm kind of discerning, what my, end position will be, thus the interim communications director.
Right.
And that has really suddenly helped me a lot. And I'm like, St. Joan of Arc, this line, I was born for this, St. Joan of Arc. And it actually came up again this morning. I'm thinking, okay, I think something's pointing me in the direction I'm supposed to go. And that's part of it.
Okay.
So I'm always like, you're being sneaky.
Right. but you're recognizing it's her working as opposed to other times when maybe it's more clearly the Lord. So you just have it like that's okay. I
you have a little sense of it. I don't really know.
Yeah, but it's a quote of Joan of Arc. It's likely okay. Yes. It's probably okay. Yes. That's helpful. All right. So there's other things that I mentioned that you said I'm going to come back to, but just for folks who are more like, whoa, you just throw me into the deep end. What's going on? So we talk about saints all the time. How would you answer the question? And I know I'm asking a lot of questions, so
it's okay.
How would you answer the question? So, what is a saint, Renee? Whether it's a Catholic asking or another Christian, what is a saint?
A saint is someone who's in heaven. It's really as simple as that.
Okay.
Now, if you want to say what is the saint according to the Catholic Church, the Church will designate certain people saints. That it's because of their how they live their life and so on, that they can comfortably say this person is a saint because they're in heaven. But anyone who's in heaven is technically a saint.
Right. So that's why. So yes, in Scripture, in the New Testament, Paul's letters, he talks about the saints, and we over time have sort of made a distinction between lowercase s saints and capital uppercase. Yeah. So the capital ones are the ones that are canonized. Most people think. Yeah, recognized.
Specifically, yeah.
So we will come back to them. But yeah, I think it's important I don't know if many Christians, including many Catholics, realize that to be a saint simply means you're in heaven. So that's why on All Saints Day, November 1st, we are seeking the intercession We'll talk about that. Seeking the intercession of all those men and women who are in heaven, even who we don't definitively know the way that we do with the capital S saints.
Right.
So there's a way in which we're all striving for sainthood now. So the way that St. Paul uses the term saints sometimes applies to those of us who are on earth now trying to become capital S saints.
Right.
And then it also certainly applies to those who are in God's, because to be a saint ultimately means to be as holy as you possibly can.
Right.
And if you're in heaven,
then you were as holy as you could be.
Exactly. So to
as
be
you were supposed to be.
Right.
How about that? Yes.
Amen. So there's that, but then we do have the capital S saints. And we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. That's the way that most people are probably used to the term. But if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Ignition. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Bergwald, visiting today with
Renae Kranz.
I thought I should let you say your name.
Sure, why not?
Say my name. So we're talking today about saints. Why are you holding your head? People can see this is video, you know. I know that maybe Bill switched the shot to me, but you just put your head in your hands. You don't like my singing?
No.
Oh, all right.
No.
Tough.
I didn't.
I'm the show. I'm the host. I have the power.
Right. You can do whatever you want, I guess.
Capital S saints. So
Yeah.
canonized saints. That's the sense of the term that most of us, Catholic and otherwise, are probably more familiar with the church. So what's a capital S saint?
This is someone who's gone through the process, or the church has brought through the process. They didn't go themselves. They're already gone. But the church has worked them through the process of becoming a saint, being named a servant of God, venerable, blessed, and a saint.
You just rattled that off.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's quite a process to go through. It's not usually short. Occasionally it has been. But yeah.
Yeah, so what happens here, and this is just recently starting, for instance, in our own state of South Dakota with Black Elk, Nicholas Black Elk, and it's the Diocese of Rapid City that's starting the cause.
They've opened it. Yep.
They've opened the cause for his canonization. Ultimately, God willing, his canonization, and so it's started by. Oftentimes it's local diocese. Maybe it's in this case a layman or whatever. Sometimes by people, maybe it's a religious order. So the religious community will start on their behalf. Sometimes people who are just super excited. G.K. Chesterton, early 20th century. It's not the diocese. In fact, the diocese does need to sign off on the cause.
Oh, sure.
And that has actually happened yet in his case, but it's being pushed by just a group of men and women, not just lay, who are really passionate about G.K. Chesterton and believe that he is a saint. So the cause is opened, it's begun, and then they go through those processes. I think a couple of the big things for people to be aware of, what the examiners are looking for is a life of heroic virtue.
Right.
So to be canonized as a saint, you have to be a model. And so what is a saint? A saint is somebody who's lived a life of a heroic virtue. They've really sought to live life imitating Jesus Christ.
Right. Yep. It doesn't mean they're perfect.
No.
In fact, they could even have done some fairly bad things before they turn their life to virtue.
Right. Absolutely.
There are some saints like that. Augustine.
St. Augustine.
That's one of the
exactly
big ones.
who I always think. I think people think of him commonly. So that at some point in your life, in other words, you begin living a life really following God closely, and taking the virtuous life very, very seriously to the point that you're considered living heroically. But then also, people may be aware, especially at the last two stages, to be beatified, there has to be a miracle that's clearly attributed to you, the saint, the potential saint to be, to your intercession.
Right.
Now I misunderstood, and then canonization, another one. Two miracles. Now the Pope can and has waived those requirements. This is also the church defined this process about 1,000 years ago to make it more of a rigorous examination. Right. Is this person really a capital S saint or not? And so now you have a standard. Two miracles are required where somebody prayed, sought your intercession, and you turned to the Lord, and a miracle happened as a result. And so now you, saint, the saint, that miracle has been approved and attributed to you. For a long time, I misunderstood. I thought this meant that you had to work a miracle while you were alive.
Oh, yeah, no.
But it's not that.
No.
It's after you're deceased and people are praying to you, asking you to ask the Lord for a miracle.
Yep. And martyrs only need one miracle.
Because their martyrdom is
their death is that's one of them.
So any other aspect of the process of canonization that's really compelling to you, or that you think folks should know about?
I think once you're like, let's say if you're, I'll ask you this question because I don't know this for sure. If you are brought to a venerable, but then never are canonized, you stay venerable.
You stay venerable.
Yeah.
So it's never retracted.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't take it all away.
Made a mistake. Sorry. Never mind.
Yeah.
So it's never retracted. You just stay at that state. There was another thing okay. So this is the process by which somebody becomes canonized. Why do we do this?
So we have examples, I think,
of
holiness, of how to live, how to do this thing called life right.
Right. Yeah, right. Do this. Well, yeah. Just I was gonna say this Christian thing, but I mean it's
life,
ultimately life itself. Yeah. So saints are why do we canonize saints? For at least a couple reasons, but one of the primary ones to show us how to live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know that Jesus lived a perfect life,
right.
but we might look at,
he was God.
So I mean, so when we see examples of other men and women who have been vetted, I mean, the canonization process is like a vetting. They are really,
right.
Because unfortunately, there have been men and women who in the church's life who recently, I think of the founder of the Legion of Christ, for instance, a priest who seemed in many ways to be very devout, very reverent, very holy. Turns out he was a monster in all sorts of ways. People have no idea. Well, his canonization process doesn't even begin, but the canonization process would make those things clear.
Right.
So it's a way.
That's what they're looking for. They're turning over every rock.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So people who we can have confidence. No, there's nothing going on here. Later in their maybe once early in their life they were scoundrels,
right.
But we can emulate their example. This is what it looks like to live the Christian life,
right.
And the more the merrier. I mean, to have all sorts of different people, different states of life, different gifts, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it easier because a saint who maybe is really compelling to you is going to be maybe less so to me. So. Yeah. So any other thoughts before I transition a little bit there?
I don't think so. No.
So you've mentioned a couple already. So I kind of want to go back to some of the things you talked about at the beginning. So Padre Pio as an example, Joan of Arc. So who are some other saints who are really maybe not right now, but you've been drawn to in the past, and why for you, if you know the reason why?
St. Jude is another one for me.
Lost causes, I understand.
Yep. Not for me, for others in my life that I've prayed to a lot.
Okay.
Let me think. I do like Augustine, mostly, I suppose, for his turnaround, but also he just has a lot of great writings and stuff that are mostly understandable.
Right.
A little better than Aquinas.
Very long.
Yeah. I do like Mother Teresa of Calcutta. I think she's just a great example of just caring for the poor and so on. Trying to think of who else. I can't think of any off the top of my head now, but yeah.
So with them, and this is what do saints matter for us today? We already talked about one, they're models, but we also seek their intercession.
Yeah.
So why do we do that? Because nothing divides the body of Christ, which is the church. We don't see the saints literally unless you've gifted with an extraordinary vision. Have you been gifted with extraordinary vision?
No.
But we know that they're alive. And as you said, even was it from today? You said Teresa
morning, yeah.
The saints are more alive than we are.
Mm-hmm. They're in heaven. Hopefully they've seen the beatific vision and everything.
They're dead, aren't they?
No, they're not dead. They're alive. They're You don't when you die and you go to heaven, you're not dead. Your spirit has moved to a different place.
Right.
How about that?
So
Does
when
that
we say
make sense?
what is death? Death is the separation of my soul and my body, the ripping apart, unfortunately, of what's supposed to stay united together. My soul and my body right now are together. They're supposed to stay that way forever, but thanks, Adam and Eve.
Darn it.
They at a certain point in my life that splitting will occur. But my spirit, my soul, is incredibly alive, if you will. So that's what death is. But yeah, there's a life with God. Eternal life is the fullest form. It is the abundant life. So for those saints who in their souls are with God, those people, men and women who are with God, they're more alive than we are. No, they don't have their bodies, and that way we're alive and they're not. But they are living life abundantly because they are in the presence of God.
Yeah, yeah. And they intercede for us just as we do when someone asks us to pray for them.
Right. So that's
It's just simple as that, really.
Right. Just as I might ask you to pray for me for some purpose, for myself or a loved one of mine. That's what we're doing with saints. So I think there's a misunderstanding because we use the language. For other Christians, I think they might get tripped up because we use the word pray,
right,
both for what we do with God and what we do with saints.
Right. So your definition needs to be clear.
Right. So pray, and that comes from the reason for that. So what we do with God alone receives our adoration and our worship. We do not worship. Do we pray to saints? Yes, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But the prayer to saints is not a prayer of worship or adoration. Right. So when I ask you, the way that we use saints pray, if I ask you to pray for me, that's me praying to you.
Right. Yes.
Because that's
very true.
It's an old English form of the word where pray thee, my Lord, like somebody to the king or to their master. I'm requesting, I'm asking something of you. I'm not necessarily adoring or worshiping you as my deity.
Right.
So that's why if you're not Catholic and you hear a Catholic say, pray to Saint such and such or so and so, they're not saying to worship or adore them. We only worship and adore the one true God.
Right.
So praying to saints is just asking them to make intercession for us. Do you have anything else around with that devotion in terms of prayer to saints before we go back to some of the things that you mentioned?
No, I think when I pray to the saints, I'm very particular about how I do it. I ask them to intercede on my behalf because that's what they're doing. They're interceding for us. They're asking the Lord or begging God to do something for us. So I'm not asking the saint. I guess that's in my view. Maybe that's not correct. But in my view, I'm not asking Padre Pio to heal someone. I'm asking him to intercede for us to do
exactly.
that.
Right. And I think that's a key distinction. So we shorthand that by saying, Padre Pio, help me out with this.
Right.
But what that really means, it's like a contraction, and the uncontracted sentence is Padre Pio, pray to God for help with whatever.
Right.
Okay, so speaking of Padre Pio, you venerated his relics.
Yes.
What the heck does that mean?
I'm not even sure I know.
Well, you did it.
I did. So when you have relics from a saint.
What's a relic?
It could be a lock of hair. It could be a piece of clothing. It could be something that they had or owned.
Right. So it could be part of their body.
Yes.
Or it could be something that was theirs or that touched them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And you can often see these relics, sometimes touch them even, depending on the relics. But you can see the relics. The venerate thing is a little new for me, so I understand it, but it's still a little weird.
So tell us what it is, first of all, and then
Let's see if I can explain it. Well, venerate is just basically honoring.
Yep.
So you would see them. A lot of people will touch them and say a prayer in front of them, whatever, ask for intercession.
Right.
At that point, it's to me, it seems like it's more of a direct, powerful way to access the saint.
Right.
That makes sense?
It comes from, and this is where, on the questions of sort of why we do this and sort of the apologetics for it, Patrick Madrid has a great book called Any Friend of God's is a Friend of Mine.
I've heard of that book, haven't read it.
And he talks, and I didn't have a chance to look it up, but there is New Testament precedent for this, where, so with Jesus, the woman with the hemorrhage just wanted to touch
the hem of his
garment, his cloak. Same thing. Similar things happened with the apostles. People just wanted to touch their clothes to receive healing.
Right.
So that's sort of the biblical foreshadow. Well, not just foreshadowing, the biblical foundation basis for why we venerate the relics of the saints.
So, but these are not God. These are not Jesus.
Right.
So
but
then
the
some
apostles,
people are probably going to get hung up on that
right. But
a little
again,
bit.
they did it with the apostles
True.
too.
That's
with the
true.
apostles'
Yes.
clothing. If I just touch Peter's cloak,
Right.
maybe God will heal me.
Right.
So I think that's where we do it. So yeah, I think what you just said, that's how many people praying in front of, maybe touching the relic. It's not. I think it can look, frankly, not only other Christians but other Catholics. It can feel a little bit superstitious. That's probably the weirdness for you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
But it's not. It's just, again, we are incarnate beings, and we have here some physical object which reminds us of this person who lived a life of heroic virtue, who is right now more alive than we are, and who is our big brother or sister that we can ask, hey, would you help me out? Talk to Dad. I'm going to talk to Dad myself, God, but I'd love it if you did as well.
Yeah, I could use both.
Okay, so we just have about a minute and a half ago. I'm dying to know, what's the Padre Pio chaplet?
Okay, so there's this chaplet. You can actually get it at Catholic stores, at least some of them. But it's like some beads that has a Sacred Heart thingy.
Good, Sacred Heart thingy. Metal
at one end and a Padre Pio one at the other.
Okay.
And
so
it has
it's like
three
just
sections.
a single line.
Just a single line. It has 3 sections. You do a Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be, and Sacred Heart of Jesus. I put all my trust in you. Then there's a couple prayers in between that are you're asking Padre Pio to help you, but it's all directed toward Jesus.
Right.
It's really a quick, powerful chaplet.
Okay. Do you know when Padre Pio's feast day is?
I did. Yes, I didn't look it up. I don't remember.
You should know when it is.
I know I should. I've written a story about him. Yes, I know.
You should know what it is because it's my birthday.
Well, that would not be a reason for me to know it.
September 23rd.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
I won't name the year at this point.
You what?
Never mind. September 3rd is Padre Pio's feast day. I was, so the saints have particular days.
Yep.
And after Vatican II, there's sort of a cleaning of the slate, if you will, with the calendar.
Okay.
And then other saints have been added back in. So I was, not for most of my at this point. For the beginning of my life, there was no saint on my birthday. But then I got Padre Pio.
That's a good one.
Nice. So
that's a good one.
Saints, that's a little bit about what they are and what they matter for us today. Thanks, Renae, for being with us today.
You bet.
And that will wrap up this episode of Ignition. Again, you can email us, ignition@sfcatholic.org, with any thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes. And until next time, may God bless you.